I'm going to go into sort of an older character rough and clean it up a little bit, right? I've been meaning to do this for a little while, but we'll sort of dive in, take a look at it. So that begs the question, where's Phoenix? Oh my God, you started diving into the face of Phoenix, and I wanted to see where it was going, and then you're flipping over to another character. Well, I came in this morning, and I could not find the cloud save, right? So something must have happened, and I've time warped back to the beginning of the last episode. So, man, I'm like, oh, God, I don't want to clean that up again because I was fully into it. This will occasionally happen to you guys. You guys have worked in digital media long enough to know that if you don't have iterative saves, you will likely lose your work, or if something happens, a crash or an accidental overwrite, you'll lose your work. It's just the way of things. And, you know, even though I've been at this for years and years and years, and I've lost entire projects off hard drives and things like that, and it's really soul destroying, you do kind of get used to it. So my trick is, let's hop into another drawing for a little bit, and then I'll come back and I'll start cleaning up Phoenix again. I'm not sure what to do. Initially I was thinking maybe I'll take off, do the cleanup, get it to the same stage at the end of the last episode, and then come back here and continue on. But I thought maybe I'll just stream it, keep it up here for posterity's sake. I will warn you guys who've seen the last episode that it's a repeat, and then you guys can skip it if you like, right? So this is an older rough of a character. Now I've just done some prep work. What I did was I brought in a layer, blanked it out. This is actually a sketchpad drawing, right? And so I've just brought it in and then brought the opacity down, right? So a lot of times people, well, back in the day, what we used to do is when we had some sketchpad design work, we would go to a scanner. And at the time, Electronic Arts Black Box, the concept art department had one scanner. Don't ask me why, just one scanner between like 4 of us, and we had to go running to the scanner to scan our stuff. It was I'm sure it was for document security reasons. But yeah, so if we were doing roughs inside of a sketchpad, we'd go and do that, scan it, go back to our desk, and then download it, and away you go. It got to the point where when mobile cameras started to get sort of budget friendly, we just take a quick snapshot. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? Because you know you're going to take it into a program like this and clean it up, and so a lot of times we just, you know, get a really kind of loose idea of what we wanted, and then again bring it into Photoshop and then carry on, right? So I don't hem and haw over taking a photograph or a scan of your artwork. Don't be too precious about it, right? Because once you get it in here, you're just going to be sort of redoing it, right? So I'm just finding a good brush. I love the default brush. It's got this nice, not only a thick to thin, but this nice fade off quality, right? So I'm going to be looking for the same things that I was looking for in the last session when I'm cleaning up. I'm diving into the face because I want to find the personality of this character first, right? Now I'm just trying to remember how we rotate the canvas, because I might need that a little bit more. Rotate left and right. So it's the left and right arrows. Okay, that's cool. And I do recall maybe attaching those to my Cintiq. I'll show you guys. So I'm just coming over here and bringing up my Cintiq controls. Oh, come on. There we go. Wacom tablet properties. Ooh, you guys can see I'm dealing with some issues today. So hopefully, no, I don't want that. Come on. I inadvertently, that's really frustrating. Okay, so let's grab this. No, I don't want that. So yeah, one of the things that I forgot to do, which I generally tend to do, is to have the Wacom tablet properties floating up on my second monitor. No. So I can kind of adjust the hotkeys as and when I need them. I usually have hotkeys set up and stored on a cloud drive so I can access them universally, but I just thought I'd leave this so I could walk you through sort of my setups. I generally try to, for a lot of applications, put certain hotkeys in the same spot. Like my multiple undos is always the top button, always. So I can go to that subconsciously. And I generally have a zoom in and zoom out in the lower buttons and the pan and et cetera, right? So I'm pretty sure I added, there's Medibang Paint. So we've got a pan, zoom in and zoom out. And rotate left, rotate right. Okay, cool. So I'm sort of oriented. Now I've got, with these guys in here, I'll be able to kind of work a little bit quicker, right? I do like the free rotate because it reminds me of the light tables I used to work with in the studio. But, you know, having said that, this is not too bad. So I need a little bit of warm-up time. And my line quality is just awful at the moment. So I'm going to try to find my angles, right? So what I mean by that is that every artist has a strong preferential angle for their stroke, right? Usually it's like this 45-degree angle. So this is why we rotate the canvas, to find the best angle for our strongest stroke, right? It's usually about a 45-degree angle, something like that. But I will find it once I get kind of warmed up. You know, as with everything, the human body needs a little bit of time to warm up before you can kind of get into the rhythm of things, right? So that mistake happened there, and I erased it because I was contorting my body, right? Now, I cannot stress this enough. To have comfortable line work, you have to have a comfortable position, and hence the other reason why rotating the canvas is really important. Because when I rotate this canvas, then I've got a really, really good use of the dominant stroke, the most comfortable angle for my shoulder, for my wrist, and for my forearm, right? So that's sort of important. Now, I don't really know what I want to do with the eyes here. So I'm just going to see if I can find it. Just by tracing. I'm going to do the sort of anime style thing where you don't quite connect up the corners. And I might go in here and do the complete eye just so I can, you know, get a feel for it. I'm thickening up the top lid because that's always a nice sort of little trick. It fakes mascara, right? So, and I've created a happy little accident, that stroke under the eye. That wasn't deliberate. That was an accident, guys. And I changed my mind and went this way. And I kept that line because she's quite a serious character. And a little bit of lines under her eyes really kind of pronounces the, or gives that sense that she's stressed, right? A lot of times. Right? But you have to be super, super careful, right? Because when you add lines to any character, specifically, in this case, younger female characters, you age them astronomically, right? So it's got to be like super, super subtle. So what I mean is like really faint and very, very small, right? So I'm just chucking in the pupil there because I want to see what that feels like. And you know, we're going to have the big anime pupil, but I want to do kind of my take on it, which is just to add sort of Marvel style gleams to it, maybe, and then have this kind of, actually, let's shade this whole guy in. Yeah, I know my strokes are not going in the same direction. I'm just feeling a little bit like I want to kind of warm up into this in a minute. And then I'm thinking I might thicken that top line. And I'm making the decision, what looks better? Does thickening the top line and then going sort of thinner at the bottom look better? I'm not entirely sure. So I'm just going to experiment with that. And then chuck in the lines that describe the corona. Is it corona? Oh man, I used to know the parts of the eye, the anatomy of the eye. Been out of production too long. Okay, so that's crappy shading, isn't it? Okay, so I'm just gonna back out a little bit and see if I like that approach, right? I don't know. It looks too clean. It looks really, really too clean. But I'll continue on, and then maybe, yeah. You know what? I'm gonna probably do the old trick of taking that, enlarging it, and going. Whoop, need a bigger brush. So what I generally like to do is add that eyeshadow. Perhaps I'll do that on a separate layer maybe. That way I can have control over the opacity of it. Yeah, let's do that on a separate layer. I'll chuck another quick layer in there. And then let's get in there and, right? And then this way on a separate layer, I'll be able to come in and erase the extraneous bits a little bit. And then bring that opacity down a touch, right? So we got that little bit of eyeshadow, right? I don't know if that's real or not. If that's actually a thing. Like, does the eyelid cast a shadow on the eye? I don't know. I'm gonna probably look that up later. But you know, for now, it looks pretty good. So I'm gonna leave that at that. And I'm gonna eyeball back down to the size of my original brush. And then let's try chucking this eye in. Now this is difficult. I might have to contort myself and draw this bit in, simply because I want to make sure that the eye proportions kind of line up. And I'll add that little kind of stress line there for her. And then just a little tick to indicate that the eye is going to continue on, but I'm going to stop it there, right? Now, again, notice with the profiles, I'm trying to squish the eye on the other side, right? Just to mimic that idea of the eyes curving around the face, right? So again, I'm doing this thing where, hello, okay. I'm doing this thing where I'm going for an extra large pupil. Just want to see how that looks. Yeah, and I used to shade my pupils jet black, but notice what I've done here. I've shaded it, but I've sort of left certain areas light. You know, I don't know if I'm going to lock that down, you know, and make it a permanent change, but it gives a little bit of a texture to the pupil, right? Just a little bit, right? And just adds a little bit more life. It's better than the rock solid black pupil, in my opinion, right? And so, yeah. Pop that down. And now I'm going to zoom back out again and see how that's working for me. The number one complaint about my cleanup style, and this is a sort of an after effect of doing a lot of cleanup for television cartoons, is that my lines tend to get too tight. I feel like I'm really, really tight on this cleanup this morning. But that's okay. I'm just trying to get into the vibe of it, right? It's a lot harder to get into the, well, believe it or not, there's you have to switch from rough sketching mode to cleanup mode. That seems a bit bizarre if you haven't done it for a long period of time. But when you're rough sketching, it's a completely different mindset to when you're cleaning up. And you have to be sort of self-aware about that because it's easy to think that while you're cleaning up, you're actually drawing. But no, you're not. You're weighing different considerations. So, for example, where do you put your thick or thin line? So that's a whole other topic to discuss, but I'll try and walk you through it in my process. So for example, I've thickened out the cheek here because I wanted to indicate volume. That's soft, thick, and fleshy. And I thin out towards the chin, not about flesh and volume, but about leading lines. So it leads down to the chin, and your eye traces past the eyes, down the chin, and exits the face, or around the cheek rather, and down and exits the chin, right? So where you put your thick to thin is, it could sometimes mimic shadow. It could sometimes mimic volume. It could be just how you're dragging the audience's eye through the line work and out the image. And believe me, getting thick to thin to an instinctive level where I knew what I was doing took a long time. Okay, so let's, I'm gonna try to hint at the chin down here. Just a little bit, right? just a tiny, tiny bit. And the reason why is simply because I want to mix the anime aesthetic a little bit with the Disney one. So it's like, at first glance, you go, oh, okay, that's kind of an anime face, kind of. But then you're starting to see, I guess, hints at anatomy. I think one of the things that the Disney guys get correct is the shorthand for anatomy, right? What do I mean by that? Well, just little indications. Not huge, but just tiny little indications of anatomy. And it makes that cartoon feel a little bit more believable because when there's more visual relationship between a cartoon character and you in terms of things you can relate to, i.e. if you can see muscle, if you can see anatomy, it just feels that much more human. I'm going to segue on that note as well to talk a little bit about creatures. And when I do a creature for you guys, I'll talk you through this as well. So how do you create an alien creature and make it believable, right? And a lot of times I'll run into young artists who say, well, it's an alien creature. Nobody's ever seen it before. I can just make the arms stick out of the head, top of the head, which you could do, right? But the immediate gut reaction of an arm sticking out of the top of the head is, man, that looks goofy, right? And it's because it goes against what we're used to in terms of seeing anatomy, right? If you want to create a creature that's much more believable, make the design rooted in an existing lizard or monster or insect or creature or anatomy. And then the audience at a subconscious level will go, oh, that could possibly exist. In addition to that, it's more than that. The best engineer in history is nature. Nature had millions of years to perfect how to kind of maneuver in this world in terms of how to negotiate gravity and the laws of physics biologically, right? Yeah, billions of years. Nature's had billions of years to perfect her craft, right? So there's no better system of, say, let's take a look at the legs. How do you maintain your balance when you walk? It's a complex interrelationship between muscles, bones, joints, and their proportions, and how they shift in relationship to the pelvis. It's like the perfect machine, such that roboticists and scientists have a difficult time replicating a walking robot and having them maintain perfect balance. Like, we're getting closer, but it's really an impossible task because Mother Nature is the best engineer on the planet. Therefore, if you use Mother Nature's designs inside your own fantastical creatures, your audience will buy it. Okay, so yeah, that's a little bit of a segue. So I'm laying down the lips. I put this little curve in there. That's not going to work because it makes her look like she's smiling, right? So I'm just going to drop that lip. Now, I used to have loads of trouble with lips, right? We used to do this. Yeah, you do that. Okay, there's got to be a divot here and then this kind of thing and that. And then the proportion of this is equal to... You do need to know that stuff, right? I'm not sort of downplaying it. It's very, very important, right? But sometimes you can get away with just shorthanding with shapes, right? And I generally tend to, with my female characters, I'll put a thinner lip up top and a thicker lip down the bottom. I used to, we'll talk about it when I'm digitally painting. So when I go in there too, I'll also color them differently. Now, when I first started painting my characters, you do the lips like a deep pink or a borderline reddish kind of thing, or what have you, or if you want to go more natural, you do that. But the thing is, you'd paint the top lip and the bottom lip the same color, right? Well, it was, I think, during Prince of Egypt, where I started to experiment with, well, hang on. If we make the top lip a lighter color and the bottom lip a darker color, it has this impact. I don't know what it is. It's just really cool. All right, so I'm going to start hucking this in. Now, same note with the Phoenix thing. I never used to have trouble with eyebrows, and I don't know why. In the last few years or so, it's just really been challenging for me. I have no idea why. It's probably a psychological barrier, and with all psychological barriers, I defeat them just by attacking it, right? Studying the crap out of it and then just attacking it, right? And I know exactly where my problem lies. It's like negotiating this curve. So I know that it's getting thicker, 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 thicker. And then how do I taper out of it? I don't know. So, but guys, that's my issue, not yours. You don't have to concern yourselves with it. So I'm just trying to lay down the other eyelid. But I'm watching that line work a little bit. I'm not really happy with the shape of this. But I noticed that sometimes an eyebrow will taper off like that. I kind of dig that. It's a pretty cool look. Okay, so I'm going to, again, back out again because I want to see where this is heading. It's not too bad. Not too bad. So I'm going to do the, again, the Little Mermaid thing. Thank you very much, Glen Keane. Glen Keane, the master. So instead of doing this, the swoop down to the nose, right, which is okay. I used to do that a lot. I'm going to do that Little Mermaid thing. Right? And so what Glen Keane would do was emphasize the curvature of the top of the forehead before going into sort of the nose dip, right? I've missed it just a little bit there. I'm going to try to keep my lines a little bit hairier. I think maybe I'm just too tight with my cleanup this morning. I don't know why. Maybe I've had a stressful day yesterday, perhaps. It's not a good idea to do cleanup work when you've had a stressful day. Because you tend to clean up really, really tight. So, all right. So let's rotate this guy around. And now I'm just debating the nose a minute because it's basically a triangle there in the block out. But I want to kind of round this off and notice a little bit of overlap just for the tip. Now noses used to be a huge issue for me as well when I was younger. But nowadays, all you have to do is do a little L. Well, depending on the style, of course, that you're after. But what I mean is just a little tick here, and then boom, right? And that's usually pretty good, right? So let's back out, take a look. Nose might be a little small, right? In this case, what I might do, and I'm just going to do this just to show you, as a reminder that you're working in a digital context, right? You can always just grab this guy, right? And then do that, right? Replace it, and then Control D, and then back out. You know, and some purists will be like, oh, that's cheating. No, it's not cheating. So I'm just going to Control T, and then move this back down, because I feel like maybe I lost the length of the nose a little bit. So I'm leaning back just to kind of take a look and then zooming out just to see how that feels. That's not bad. That's nice, actually. So I'm going to come in here and erase sort of the extraneous lines here. This might need a redraw. I'm being super picky about the erasing. I'm just in cleanup artist mode, and it's just making me too tight, I think. I'm going to add just a little tick there. And then, no, it was good the way it was. Leave it alone, Al. Back away from the drawing. Okay. So, there we are. So now hairstyle. There are various different ways of approaching the hairstyle. Oh, you know what? I noticed something too. I've picked up this affectation, guys, over the last few years or whatever. I'm just going to put a tick line for the neck. But I'm drawing a lot of my female hero type characters with these huge scarves. I'm not doing it consciously. It just seems to be something I'm having fun with at the moment. Okay, so one of the things that I want to correct is the volume of the back of the head, right? So if, oh no, I drew on my shading layer. Rookie error. That's okay. I think we can fix it. Let's come in through here, grab this, right? And we should be able to cut, and then can we paste in place? Medibang Pro? Yes, we can. Thank you. All right. So I've got that layer. Let's move you back up here. And so how do we merge layer down? Let's see. I almost merged it right back into the shadow layer. That would have been great, hey guys? All right. So that's what I'm after. So let's see if we got a layer merge here. Merge down. There we go. Control E. Same as Photoshop. Nice. Right? So then that preserves the shading layer, and I'm just got to remember to stay there. One thing I do miss, in Photoshop, you can color code these layers, right? And makes it sort of a little bit visually clearer what layer you're on. But it's that's one of those things that you got to get used to over time. Oh my God, the eyes are off. Okay. So, yeah, getting used to intuiting what kind of layer you're on is just something that you pick up over time. So I'm putting just a little bit of an adjustment in here, and just to see what that's like. Now, I've left a couple of happy accidents there because I like to sometimes indicate an eyelid, right? So that sort of works, but there's something to observe. Notice as I add more and more lines, right, she starts to look a little bit more haggard and worn and worried and all kinds of stuff. So you got to be really, really careful about adding all those additional lines. I'm already thinking too that this is not, I'll show you what I mean. It should be a little bit more like that, right? And perhaps rotate it a bit, because as you scale it out, the orientation may be thrown just a little bit. Let's Control D that and then back out. Oops, back out a little bit. That's not too bad. It's not too bad. It's a bit dark and in your face, but I think that might just be a result not of that eyebrow, but because this guy over here is a little bit sparse. So I'm going to add a little bit more here. Right? Okay, so I'm doing what's called noodling a drawing, and this is bad. So I got to back out and go, look, I'm getting distracted. Let's start working on the hair, right? Actually, you know what? Let's pop that on a different layer as well, right? So we've got this. I'm going to mark this guy down as my shadow layer, right? And this is my clean. And let's pop in a hair layer. Pop that over top. Hair. And then we can start building this out. Okay, so you do need to know a little bit about the structure of hair. That's one thing, right? So there are certain regions of hair. Let me just draw it in. So there are certain regions of hair. You've got the bangs, depending on the hairstyle, actually, but you got bangs here, and then I usually do side bangs, and then there's a part, and you got one mass of hair here, one mass of hair here, and then sort of a little bit at the back, right? So that's roughly how I'm approaching this hairstyle, right? But the other thing that's an important and crucial decision for me is the hair strand, believe it or not. But we'll get to it when we get to it. I'll show you what I mean. It's an important consideration. Oftentimes people kind of ask me, how do you deal with hair? Because there's always usually so much, right? And you know, I've seen a lot of artists do per follicle kind of renderings of stuff. What do? Well, I generally try to find the major clumps, right? The major clumps that describe what the hair is doing, right? So I'm by no means dead set on this because, well, that's one of the reasons why I popped it in a separate layer, because I'm just sort of exploring and just sort of seeing how that hair is going to sit. You know, when I thought up this hairstyle, it was just sort of kind of a rough idea. So here I'm doing a rough clump here and another clump here and clump here, right? And then I'll go in and I'll start breaking it up a little bit, right? So I'm adding those lines in there. Sometimes you'll need to draw something going all the way back, right? Something like that. I always like the double line thing. I'll talk about the double line thing when I get a better example of it, right? So that looks awful because of two reasons. I'm drawing at a really awkward angle, and I'm just sort of feeling this idea out. But I mean, that's the one thing that I want you guys to be to remember, is that this is digital drawing. So oftentimes you've got 99 layers to play with and multiple undos, right? So just don't think too much about the lines, just lay them down. And don't be afraid to use the digital tools like lassoing stuff and moving it around. But to be honest, I didn't start really doing that till fairly recently, right? So even I was kind of locked up in the, oh, it's cheating sort of mindset, but no, it's not really cheating. So I'm trying to find a good kind of silky line. The one thing that I learned from a colleague of mine, Aaron Kambitz, is like when Aaron Kambitz is a fantastic concept artist, right? He's one of the founders of Relic Entertainment and the lead concept artist, one of the lead concept artists on Homeworld. And I had the pleasure of working with him. He's a fantastic artist. And one of the things that he would do, I would watch him, and he'd like have his hand over the undo button, and he'd be like, I need this line. Oh, okay, that's the line, right? So he'd use multiple undos to his advantage to get the perfect line work, right? Again, remember, you guys are digital artists, right? You're in a digital context, so you can utilize the computer for what it was meant for, which is to kind of aid the creative process, right? So this is the characteristic clump of hair that I'm after, the main one. Okay, so something like that. Let me see. Let me see. Oh, that's fine. I just drew on my rough layer without creating a new one. You know what? I think I'm going to leave that for a sec because there's something about that that's working in there a minute. That line up there is a bit awkward. So I was trying to get this idea of the hair kind of hanging out like this over the top, but it's not, I don't think it's quite working. But we'll hit that in a sec because I want to talk about the hair strand. So there's always like, let's bring that opacity back. Actually, let's see what that opacity does. It's not too bad, right? Okay, so I'm gonna draw the main bang down here. Now it's squared off. I don't know if I want to do that. Check that out. It's a bit of a wobbly line, and that has to do with being at the incorrect angle. So if I come over here and adjust my angle a bit, I'll be able to kind of hit that, and then when I come back, it should be a nice silky smooth line, right? So. A little bit too dark though, but that's all right. So this squared off bit, right? It's supposed to kind of mimic a bob. So I'm going to put a triangle in there, and that will kind of describe that hair split for me. I just want to, those are bad lines because I am not at the right angle. But I will leave that split there because I want to see if I really do want to keep that kind of bob, right? So I'm really loose with the line work here because I want to sort of explore where the splits are, right? And then so I'm coming at this at a different angle, right? Okay, so the hair strand, right? There's usually a hair strand that's like in the way of the face. You know, I usually stick one going over one eye, and it's a nice little affectation because it's a bit of imperfection in a perfect world. I mean, no hairspray on the planet is gonna like keep the hair that way. At the same time though, you want really tight areas of hair because it's a cartoon. So you want to be graphic and you want to be iconic and things like that. But you want to indicate that, you know, even though the line work may describe a perfect kind of caricature, I don't mean perfect as in the best drawing ever, but I mean perfect as in it's very, very tight line work, right? So I want to indicate a little bit of, right, something like that. And I've been meaning to try this for a while. I wanted to put that hair strand fairly close just to see, because I've always kind of dangled it fairly wide across the face, and I wanted to see what it looked like in a different position. Oh, that's a bit too. And again, I'm at an awkward angle, so I'm going to change this, right? And then back out of here and take a look. I think that means she'll need another one here. Maybe not so long. That looks okay. No, there's a little bit of there's a wiggle on the line there. No, can't have that. I'm just debating in my head if that's too symmetrical or not. So let's try and break it up with just a little bit. I wonder if this hair follicle started turning the other way. That would look okay. It's tough. The subtle stuff is really, really tough because you can see how dramatically it can change a drawing. Now, if I put 2 there to break that symmetry up a bit, how's that going to look? That's not too bad, actually. So again, I'm doing what's called noodling the drawing, so I need to kind of move on. So I've got that on there. And I want to get rid of that bare forehead because that would not be so evident there. I'm going to undo that because the line took a weird turn. Yeah, that's looking okay. And then I'm going to go to my clean layer because that's sort of distracting underneath there, and I'm going to just kill that line, that bit of the line anyway, just up to there because I might need a little bit of it. Okay, so let's hit this bit of the hair. Okay, so it's got a hairy line, pardon the pun. So I might kind of maintain that just to show that the character is a little bit unkempt. And I'm just trying to find out how that hair is going to curl around the head there, right? So notice I leave a tick mark there, and instead of closing it and doing that, turning the corner and making a triangle, I sort of leave it, and then I draw the next one there, and I leave it, and I see how I'm drawing the kind of the dominant curves of that hair, and then I'm kind of finding areas where I can connect it up, right? And maybe something like that. Oh, no, that doesn't look good. I think it needs to be coming out this way, and that feels more like it's curling around her head. And then this stuff, whoop. See, I think I hit this line over here, guys, a little too hard. But there we go. And I'm drawing little triangles there. For now, I might kind of carve into it, break it up a little bit. I do want to tone this down with a very, very low opacity eraser. Let's do that now because it's sort of bugging me a bit. So I'm going to increase the brush size on this guy. And where is my opacity setting for the brush? Okay, so the brush opacity, that's the size. Opacity is there, I think. Let's see if we can pull this one back a little bit, right? Just lighten it up a touch. Whoops. Right? It's just so strong. And I'm going to hit some of these stronger lines as well because I think, and you know, it's there's a little bit of give on the line. Oh, that's too much, I think. So let's back out. A little bit too overzealous with that eraser. So I'm going to really decrease the strength of that, right? Because I just want to pull just a little bit of that out. And then just a little bit of that. Let's knock it back a little bit, right? So that's looking pretty good. Let's zoom out here. So that's okay. Yeah, I don't know. The top of the head is looking a bit weird. I mean, it looked nice under the rough, but a little bit weird once I've got that cleanup line in there. So I'm going to try again, right? I think maybe that part of the head should actually be a little bit more like this, right? That looks a little bit nicer. So the split, let's go in there. Now, the tough thing about the split is you got to make it look like there's volume at the back of the head as well. So here's the central problem for the hairstyle of this character. I'm going to put a couple of ticks there, right? Just to indicate that there's some hair pull going on there. That last line, awful, right? Because I'm not drawing at the right angle. This is parallelism, so we don't want that. We want sort of something like that. Let's zoom out, take a look. That's cool. All right. So the central problem that I found with this initial design is I thought the volume at the back of the head was a little bit sparse, right? You got to remember there's the back of the skull there, right? And I think maybe the hairstyle would come down a little bit further. I'm just roughing it in and taking a look to give myself an idea of where I want to go with this hairstyle. It's interesting. I hope you guys are observing that during the cleanup process, there's a tendency to lose quite a bit of the initial idea of the rough. What I mean by that is if we come in here and erase this, the rough is not looking too bad. But once I start cleaning it up, you're just like, oh, actually it's not too good. So I think all I'm doing is exploring to try and find what lines here really kind of work for me, right? So let's rotate this canvas back. Now I like this. I might split that as a hair. And then we've got this stuff going on. And now I've deleted those lines because they need to feather out, right? And I think the hair would be doing something a little bit softer towards the top. So it would be harder fringes cut, kind of towards the front, but towards the back, it would soften out again. Oh. Right. Something like that. I'm also kind of aware that I'll probably try and pull some more detail out when I'm painting. So I think I might just leave it at that. All I'm looking for is the shape. It's a little, the lines are a little bit incomplete here. So it looks, you got to be careful that your line work here doesn't look like Morse code. It's not like stutter stepping through stuff, right? So I'm just going to connect up a few of these pieces just to indicate that, yeah, it's all kind of part of one sort of hairstyle. And then I'm going to start curling here as opposed to having a flat cut that way. And then we'll zoom out. Something still not quite right about the hairstyle. So I'm going to do this quick little fix just to see. And I'm just going to take this guy and let's rotate it. Move this guy into place. Oh, a little bit of lag there. I think maybe that feels a bit better to me. Let's take a look. Hey guys, yeah, that feels a little bit more like there's volume in the back of the head. I think that I don't like this line here, so I'll take that guy out and we'll take a look. Yes, most definitely. That feels more like a hairstyle to me, right? So I'm gonna pop in here, get a little closer, and then let's back out, see if we're on the right track. I think that's all right. I think maybe, I don't think I've nailed the shape of this just yet. But I'll leave that for now. I think also, I want to come in here. And sometimes, with the hair, you can tell I've sort of abandoned the cleanup because I know there's some issues now with the shape of it and etc. So I'm just kind of sort of loosely roughing it in. But I wanted to figure out how those two areas of the head, the hair, sort of dovetail together. So I sort of lock that down. Locking it down meaning I've darkened the line just to say, yeah, that's what I want it to do. Okay, so that's cool. Yeah, it's not bad, right? So I think what I'll probably do, I just wanted to clean up the hair here. What are we looking at for time? Yeah, so we've been at this about 40 minutes or so. So what I'll do is, you know what, I'm going to chuck in the scarf because I'm sort of in the mood for that. So let's get this guy down. I just want to see what that feels like. Now you can see the really, really kind of loose sort of lines under here. Right? It's the same kind of approach to the hair. You're just looking for, I guess, the important lines. How do I say that? How do I describe? The important lines are, what are the major shapes? Oh, you know what? I should probably, let's take you and stick you on your own layer. Yeah, we should do that. Oh, I know. I will copy paste this guy. Pop that under here, and that's my scarf. Pop the old door open here. And go back to the hair layer. Control D this guy. And let's turn off our clean. Just going to do some careful erasing on both sides, right? Just to get this sort of tidied up. I think I should put the brush size on a hotkey in here somewhere. Now, because of the opacity of that brush line, we're going to see a little tick mark there, but I think I can live with it. It'll be all right. I'll paint over it. And we'll go to the scarf, and I'll get rid of the hairlines. Which actually might work in our favor. So there we go. Right, so now what I'm after is sort of the dominant shape of this. So I generally tend to split a scarf into two pieces. I'll show you what I mean. So I'm gonna come down here and then maybe do a little loop here. I never used to understand this loop as a young artist, right? But it's just how one layer of the scarf is folding in on itself, right? And then this will be my second layer. Now, here's the thing that I'm gonna do to take this away from the rough, is I'm gonna find out how this scarf is sitting on her body, right? So I know her sort of, the center breast line is there, so I'm going to, let's erase that, and then like that. So it's gotta feel like it's sort of sitting on top of her chest, right? So I'm trying to curve the base of that scarf around that center of her breast and then up and over the top of her chest, angling towards the, I need to get at the right angle, angling towards the shoulder, right? So it's like swooping up towards the shoulder, right? Something like that. Now, we need a few other lines here to sort of help complete the feel of this thing. I think we need a connecting line there, actually. So we got to show the closure of the scarf, and then a tick line to show sort of the thickness of the scarf as well. We might need more, I don't know yet. And then something like that, and then I might do the indication of something else. I don't know if I like that. That's not working quite right for me. So maybe, no, that looks like it's paper thin, right? So I think I'll leave it and then again come back to it, right? Oh, I know what it is. It needs to, the bottom of the scarf needs to come up like that. But then we've got bad tangency here, which really sucks. So bad tangency is you never want a line to be sitting right on top of another line, right? That's sort of bad news. So let's get rid of this. And there's weirdness there. Yeah, so I'll take the same approach with the hair. In my mind, I've already thought, okay, well, this isn't a cleanup. This is just going to be a pseudo kind of cleanup. So I'm going to get away with sort of rough line work. Now, I'm telling myself that to just get out of this mindset of going too clean. Okay, that might work. I think I might leave that. So I got a bit of a dovetail here. Now I just got to pick which dovetail I want. So do I want this line crossing over or the other line crossing over, right? So let's erase one and talk about it, right? So I'm going to back out here. Yeah, I think I like that. I think that this thick part of the scarf would actually be sitting on top a little bit, and then the rest of it would go up over her shoulder. And I don't mind that the line work here is a little bit wobbly because in my head this is sort of a soft material. I might tone this back a little bit because it feels a bit hard. Right? And then same in here. Knock that back a bit. Right? And then I'm gonna back away and see how I like it. So the last thing I'm gonna add again is the thickness of the scarf. So what I'm thinking is the scarf would probably ride fairly high on the back of her neck, right? And then settle down over her back like this. So see this loop here, guys? I'm going up and around and I'm completing that loop up here, right? So then when I back out, we should feel the thickness of that, right? So that's cool. I don't know where to put like the tail piece. Should it go back there or should it loop around and come down this way, right? Not entirely sure yet. I think she's the kind of person who would maybe have it kind of coming down her back this way, right? Somewhere back there. So I'm going to back away and see if I like that. Yeah, that's not too bad. I'm also looking at her silhouette to see, you know, all the bumpy bits are here and then a nice smooth bit down the back. So there's nice contrast to her silhouette. So I think that's working pretty good. And I think I will save it there and then we'll call it a day. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to, let's make sure we do this properly. So I'm going to save this to my cloud saves and I'm going to call this, I created a bunch of these characters a long time ago for a kids show about I don't know, they're 12 to 14-year-olds and they're being trained in martial arts for some reason. I don't know yet, but I just thought of these characters and their names and thought, wow, this is cool. Right. So we'll call this Deidre Clean 1. And we want to save it as a full color. Yes, we do. I know it's a waste of pixel data, but that's all right. So now hopefully that has saved to the proper drive. Okay, so let's zip out here and have a look at what's going on. Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. So when I dive back into her, I'm going to do a little bit of armor research because I've just hucked in some armor pieces that I always draw. I always draw. So I want to kind of think through her armor a little bit more. And so we'll come back and develop this character a little bit more. Now, one of the things I want to mention is see how much more you can probably visualize what she'd be wearing because you got the personality of her face kind of locked in. I can definitely see a little bit clearer what kind of person she would be and what sort of stuff she'd be wearing and things like that. I just noticed one last thing before I go. All right, so let's go back to the hairline. I think it's always good to change your viewpoint over and over and over again on your artwork because it gives you a different perspective. You ever notice in old painting tutorials, the painters will step back from their painting and they'll do this, right? It affords you another perspective on your artwork, which can sometimes yield some pretty good results. I just started to think maybe there'd be a bit more an angle on the front bang and it would sit a little bit more like that on her. Let's try that. I think that is a good adjustment. The bangs suddenly feel too small. It's weird, eh? When you make these judgments, these little corrections, certain things will start to stand out to you. Like it really felt like maybe this should be a bit thicker, right? Something like that. Let's angle this a bit more. I can see bits and bobs of original line work underneath. I'm just gonna have to deal with that. But I just wanted to make these quick changes and see how I felt about it. That's pretty cool. I like that. I think I probably want to knock that back a bit. It's done this weird darkening thing. Is that me, or did Medibang paint just darken my line work when I chopped and changed it? I think it might have. That could just be part of the technology. Perhaps it's just an artifact of the algorithms that are calculating the transforms. I'm just going to, oh, it was too much. I just want to take a little bit of the hardness out of that. Something like that. Actually, I'm noodling it again, and I've erased areas that I didn't want to erase. So I'm just gonna, that's good enough. Gives me the right idea. So I'm gonna leave it at that. I might actually pull this back because it's gone too deep now. And I don't like the angle of the curvature anymore anyway. I keep saying to you guys, okay, I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm gonna leave it at that, and I keep diving back into it, right? So what I want to fix is that line, right? So that feels more like it's following the curvature of her forehead, and I'm happy with that. I think the artifacting here, probably just get rid of that, just because it's super pronounced, and we don't need that. We got a couple of little kind of happy accident type things going on here. I mean, her hair is cut in sort of a harsh bob-ish thing. So it might work, I don't know. I'm just gonna try it, play with it. I'm gonna create tips on a lot of the hair strands and get rid of a little bit of the mess here and here. And I think I'm happy with that. I think that looks much better. Much better. Oftentimes, one mistake that I notice people will make when they're doing hairstyles is they'll put like a super high forehead, especially when the character's got bangs. So you got to remember the bangs kind of come close to the eye line, right? So cool. Now I'm going to save this. Now I'm going to do an experiment because I did this last session and I went to open my Phoenix and she was gone. So I want to make sure that this has, not only is it in my recents, it is, but when I say open from cloud, is it there? She's there, my cloud saves. So, good. 31 megabytes, so the size looks correct to me. It's like a 4K size canvas, so it should be that big. And we're good. And we're all done for today. Thanks a lot for tuning in.